A lot of adults in today's world struggle from some sort of financial situation. College students especially find themselves unable to sleep or even eat because of the stress created from these financial worries.
Today was payday, and yesterday I had $4.32 in my bank account.
Recently, there's been times where I didn't have any money in my account because I spent it on the wrong thing, and I didn't use it well, so I couldn't even get a pack of water. So I would have to ask my roommates for water. If I can't use my roommates, I would have to use the sink water, and it would kind of be like, I don't know, depriving of my humanity kind of.
I can actually go buy groceries now. I've just been kind of living off of the Costco hot dogs I have.
According to OPPU, educational debt in the United States has tripled over the last decade, exceeding $1.5 trillion. The students who need to take out a loan for these tuition or living costs have also been having trouble paying off these loans. By 2023, almost 40% of all students who have taken out a loan will fail to pay it off.
The big problem for me is thinking about what's going to happen after I graduate, because over spring break my dad told me, hey, you have right now $60,000 of student loan debts that need to pay off. He's working on it right now for me, but it's not gonna get down by the time I graduate. I graduate in a little over a year, so it's not gonna get down to the point where it can be easily paid off. So I'm easily gonna be paying that for probably over a decade after I graduate, depending on how good of a job I get. So that's always a major stressor for me.
I will start out by saying I do suffer from pretty bad anxiety, and so lately, as I'm starting to graduate or edge towards graduation, I'm worrying more about having to pay back my student loans, which has been causing a lot of added stress in my life, because now I'm worrying about I need to find a job super quick to start paying back these loans to kind of get my debt down.
I do dwell on it when I'm stressed about it. I overthink so much, and that's one of my biggest issues.
This can cause a lot of emotional distress, leading to drinking and smoking as a coping mechanism. People who drink and smoke are at a much higher risk of developing cancer, and 80% of cancers found in the mouth are caused by alcohol and tobacco use, according to the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism.
I do drink alcohol, mostly with friends. I never drink alone. I make it my mission never to drink alone, because I feel like that's just one step towards alcoholism, and I don't want that.
So I did used to smoke a lot, and it helped with stress a lot, I'll tell you that. I'm not a big drinker, so I wouldn't say that, but definitely I would smoke to relieve it. I've quit since then, but so now I just kind of break down crying to relieve that stress.
I never try to drink when I'm upset, because that's not gonna help.
What happens if you need to go to the hospital? 61% of Americans don't have enough to cover a $1,000 emergency. An ER visit alone could cost up to a few thousand.
If you can't afford to basically fix something that you might not even meant to do, or certain emergencies that you need to be there at that time or need that help at that time and can't afford it, it kind of sucks, because it's just that's our human life, and it all comes to a cost. It's not really coming to values and morality. Sometimes it's you got to pay it off. So it feels like we're paying for our life, and I don't think our life should have a price on it.
It makes me kind of sad that our country doesn't, first of all, just give free healthcare as an option. But I do think it's sad that a lot of Americans can't afford healthcare to help in that aspect, or just can't even make enough of a living wage to help if there is an emergency in that aspect.
I try to always keep some money in savings, so if there's ever an emergency, I can have that money, but not everyone's able to do that. And you see these costs of just simple things, like just staying alive costs so much money. If you break your arm, you could end up spending thousands of dollars on x-rays and surgeries to fix it, even though it wasn't even your fault. Say you fall down the steps or something. Yeah. But I'm not sure how much you had to pay there, but you couldn't control that. It just happened, and you ended up paying a lot of money that you may not have had.
When you don't have that financial part of life, kind of just makes it more difficult to, like you said, find a certain house that you want, or a certain place to live, certain things, because you're always stressing, is this going to be too much, or do I have enough for this?
No, it is not. Sorry I didn't let you finish the question, but it's so clearly not.
Absolutely not. I, in high school at one point, was making $8.50 an hour for a job, and after taxes and everything, I was working over 40 hours a week, which first of all is illegal for a 14-year-old. And after taxes and everything and working over 40 hours at $8.50, I was only pulling in like a couple hundred maybe every 2 weeks. Like it's not livable, it really isn't.
I did a whole speech about raising the minimum wage because I think we should. It has not kept up with inflation since it was set. I mean, you have people's rent is more than what they make in a month. That's just not sustainable.
Of course not. Of course not. Like, $7.25 an hour is not even close to like anything. If you really think about how expensive things are, how prices are growing, $7.25 is barely being able to like get McDonald's sometimes, you know? So I feel like that's just not even a feasible amount, especially for the amount of labor people do and the prices they get for that. In other places, the expenses of living and the price they get or how much they get paid, I definitely don't think $7.25 is even close to the amount. It definitely needs to grow.
The minimum wage hasn't been changed since like the 2008 financial crisis, and like inflation has gone way up, and as well as price gouging. And the minimum, it's like a minimum living wage, so how am I supposed to live off of $7.25 if prices are going to go up and my wages are the same? Like, if it kept up with inflation since the 1960s, I believe it would be at like $20-something.
In my one nutrition class here, I learned that a decent amount of students here are still on food stamps and need help economically for food, for living, for all of this and that. My one roommate sophomore year, she did not have a lot of money, so she worked a couple jobs and everything just to be able to afford tuition and food and all this stuff. So it's definitely an issue that surrounds more students than you'd think.
Man, college students, stay on top of your stuff. Get involved, get your money up, you know, not your funny up, because it's hard out here, man. It's hard out here. You gotta be able to help each other, so stay on top of it.
Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Asking Penn State. Keep an eye out for next week's episode, where we learn about the physics of ice skating.